Is there a standard line at the door when you go talk?
Just it's over for the afternoon. I'm here to talk about what the issues are. Anything you'd like to tell me, I'm running for municipal politics and really appreciate your support. You don't want to spend a lot of time, maybe a couple, 3 minutes tops at the door.
And it's good to take someone with you so they can be the bad guy too, right? So that like if like for Drew or Joe, if someone's sort of luring them into the house, you're grabbing them by the back of the neck, you know, because they lost control of the situation and you need to rescue them. But that's what happens, right? Is the person running, like you shouldn't be expected to go, you know what, I can't stick around. Maybe you can do that 2 or 3 times, but eventually if someone is determined to talk to you, then, you know, someone else should be the one that kind of pulls you away and sends you on your way. And it's also good strategically to do that, to have someone go with you for lots of reasons, but they can also go ahead of you. And so if people don't want to talk to you, then, you know, and because it's just a waste of people's time, have them go all the way up to the door, and then the person say, oh, I've already decided who I'm voting for, or, you know, hi, Joe. You know, hi, Joe, if you want to come in. So.
Mr. Howard Dean, and I could briefly comment on that. I got the idea that he, in various respects, peaked too early. Can you sustain that kind of momentum? This is sort of a brand new field where, well, besides the coffee parties, there's the internet stuff, and it's really more of a grassroots networking thing. I think it's really fascinating. Do you have anything else to say on that?
Well, yeah, I mean, I just think it's so interesting. The one that I was looking at today was the whole Belinda Stronach one, right? So she's like pushing people to have these coffee parties, so because to become members of the party, right? And there's like a big push, and so tomorrow or today, I can't remember, I think it's maybe tomorrow, if you have a coffee party tomorrow and you have more than 10 people, you can talk to her on the phone, like she'll do a phone thing. So yeah, but I mean, so it's a way to have like the candidate, you know, be involved in your coffee party no matter where you are in Canada. And, you know, like it's just such interesting because it really is about the grassroots stuff. And so often you feel like people are getting away from that by using the internet. But the other part of it is about the paraphernalia stuff. Like, so for Howard Dean, like you can order, you know, bulks of hundreds, t-shirts, buttons, it's amazing, you know. I mean, we're always lucky if, well, you know, I know people that make buttons, except we always use the Union logo, so that's not true. I'm just kidding. But, you know, it's so expensive to do that stuff. So, I mean, that part is just out of my mind. And then if, you know, like for them, like, then what do you do with all the stuff?
I was just wondering if you could talk about some of the bootstrap ideas that you got, because you said you worked on the NDP, so I guess you get close to them not having or limited funds, and maybe some of the unique things that maybe you can still promote and manage a successful campaign even though you don't have the money that someone else might have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think really the people can do the work. Like I think that's really easy to do if you can mobilize enough people. So like I said, you can produce pamphlets relatively cheaply. So you could just put some pamphlets together and get everybody out in the doors. And we did that on Jane Cochran's. It was great. We did a whole day. We did a blitz. So we had, like, I don't know, if there's like 50 volunteers came, we sent them all out with pamphlets and we gave them a relatively small geographical location, sent them on their way, and it was great. People loved it because they felt like they were part of a day. And so things like that can really work, and it costs nothing, right? I mean, you know, you can get people to bake cookies, to, you know, and those are places where you can really, certainly can cut corners. I think you at the same time still have to somehow have some sophistication. Like I don't think that there is any reason to be to have things not look as good when you're doing them in house, because that still is what you're competing with. So, but I still believe also that lots of it is about the message.
Sure. In your experience running a school board campaign, it sounds like it's not as intense, right? Mm-hmm. Would you say it's possible to run a slate of candidates that might all have the same kind of policies or beliefs?
Yeah, I think on the school board particularly that would be quite a beneficial thing.
So, and almost like one campaign manager?
Yes.
Do you think that's possible?
Yeah, because I don't think you don't need a central location. Well, you could. I mean, if you had enough people, you might be able to pool a bit of money, but you don't really need a campaign office. Like, we never had a campaign office. The only thing I think that Jane made a mistake was she used her home phone number. And I don't know what impact that had later on her, but I would not suggest people do that, because then things just get too mucked up. So if you have one, you know, or people could use a phone number as contact, but I think like doing one sort of common brochure, maybe pick different colors or something, but I think those things are really
So that's
As long as, yeah. The only thing is that people are suspicious of slates, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's the only problem, is that people wonder what's going on. You know, like they kept saying to Jane, you're running with a slate of responsible parents for public education. And I'd be like, yeah. You know, like, ooh, scary, you know? So people are weird about stuff like that. So you'd have to have, and how you sort of would deal with the issues of autonomy for local areas, you know, like that would be if you're running one in a growth area where they want a new school built at the detriment of an inner city school being closed, like stuff like that would have to be worked out.
And then can you just talk a little bit about the logistics? Like, should a campaign office be on a main street? What are the hours that they should be open? When should they open? Like,
Yeah.
should people start?
Yeah. Well, I think it's really important to have something as public and accessible as possible. I think it's really important to be physically accessible for volunteers. I think that that's a really important thing, and lots of people don't keep that in mind, because cheap space is often on the third floor of a bunch of rickety stairs. So that's a huge, and I mean it in the broadest sense, not just a person in a wheelchair. But, and also it should be sort of sort of public view. But you also want to be concerned about safety, so you want to be concerned about making sure there's always only one person there, and like stuff like that. If you're on a really public kind of street or a bit off the main track, I would say, well, for the last month, you should be able to manage things ahead of time. I mean, it's a huge cost, and so if you can do a month, that's great. It's really helpful if you can. And I think particularly for older women, it's important to do that. And I would open, I think it's important to open sort of from noon till 8. If you can get someone for the morning, that's great. But, make sure all phone calls are returned, emails, everything, all the same day. Like, that's absolutely critical. You can't let a day go by when people aren't there available. And it should be a hub. If it feels really quiet and creepy, that's not a good sign, because it means not enough going on. And because God knows, trust me, I sat in Northeast Calgary all alone many a night thinking, what am I doing here? I don't think we're going to win. It was just a hunch. And I think we gained 4. And I can never figure that out when there's 3 major parties. But that's, yeah. But that kind of stuff, it really should be, and that atmosphere of fun, like within the campaign office again. If the candidate and the campaign manager are having a fight, like send them somewhere, because it happens. I mean, people are tired and working hard and stuff. Just keep it upbeat, because it's all about those volunteers.